Welcome back. Let's talk about Replit. So, Replit is a cloud IDE. So in other words, it's a code editor that's based on a website, not a program like Cursor that you download to your local computer. And then it's also got the hosting combined. So it's a bit more complicated, I suppose. It looks a bit scarier than something like Vercel, which we'll talk about next. But it is very powerful. I built my first couple of sites back when I was doing a little website I called the Profit Max, which was the early version of the Profit Curve app, taking something from a spreadsheet and turning it into a little one-page app that had sliders. And oh my God, I thought that was one of the coolest things, being able to create this thing all of a sudden with sliders that anybody could go use. Ancient history. Now, that was all of, 2.5 years ago or something. Feels like a very, very long time ago. So there is a little agent in Replit. So you can ask the agent questions and it will write the code for you. Beware though, that is a very expensive way to do things. I don't use that. I do all of the coding side of things inside of Claude Code, in the Brain, in Cursor. But it is an option. If you get really, really stuck with something, usually it'll be when you're trying to publish the thing, it might end up with what's called a build error. So it's trying to build your site before it deploys it. And it might say, oh, I found this error. Usually you'll go back to Claude Code at that point and say, hey, take a screenshot of the build error, drop that into Claude Code, please fix this. But every now and again, 1 out of 20 times, there'll be this weird little thing that Claude Code can't quite wrap its head around. The agent, because it's trained on all of Replit's own website and all of the architecture and all the tools that they have available there, it can often solve that problem, even if some other tools can't. So there's tons and tons and tons of stuff. I'm not going to try and teach you Replit, but Matt Palmer is their dev guy. He has some wonderful videos on YouTube. Don't know why I'm pointing over there because I've got YouTube open there. Yeah, he's great. Check out the Replit channel. There's loads and loads of good examples of what you can build and how you can go about it. Again, it's a more expensive way to do it, actually trying to build within Replit. Just keep an eye on your usage and your costs. It has environment variables, which I'll talk about more in a second. So that's the equivalent of what it has a thing called secrets, which is the equivalent of the thing that we called earlier environment variables. That's what it's called inside of Cursor. It creates a secure website for you, which is handy. And obviously it's persistent, right? You push all of your code there, you grab it all from GitHub, it stays there on Replit. It doesn't disappear once you leave the site, obviously. I use it for all of my sites, the members portal, 8020brain, which is kind of a demonstration of all the things that the brain can do, 8020 agent, which is my third version, I suppose, of that original little Profit Max, where you can visualize your Google Ads data, and then Microdes, which is sort of my main site, where everything is linked from. And then I also have some other Replit apps that are deployed on Replit to handle some of the geekier stuff that I didn't know a thing about a few months ago, and Claude Code has helped me build those, and they're deployed on Replit. So those are back-end services that are used by my other apps. And this is really just a way of disguising and hiding sensitive stuff. So essentially, I've got, for instance, on 8020brain, I've got a tool on there that will turn your SOP into a skill. I'm a big fan of skills, as you know. But to do that, we need to use an AI. We need to use a large language model, and we chat to the large language model via this thing called an API. Hopefully you've seen the earlier video where I talked about APIs. Now to do that, the very, very first time I did this, I did it the stupid way, the vibe coding way, the way that someone that doesn't know anything about security might do it. And I built into 8020brain, hey, when somebody wants to do this, let's go talk to that AI over there. Here's my API key, that's my password, go do your thing. Now I was using secrets, but I didn't realize that when someone is actually using the site, if they know what they're doing, they can peek behind the code and they can see those secrets in the code. So even though I was hiding them on the website, if you knew what you were doing, you could find them. And so this is the proper way, because now 8020brain goes and talks to one of my other sites, which never shows anything on the website, my other website then goes and has a chat to the AI, gets the answer back, passes it back to the front end website, and nobody can see my API keys. Nobody gets to see the password to the AI, essentially. So I really like it. It's a great platform. They've grown massively over the past year. They've innovated a lot and added a lot of new features. And they handle all of that infrastructure. So like I said, I've probably got 7 or 8 different apps, different sites on there now. And I'm still just paying that $10 a month. It's incredible value for what I get out of it. There are thousands of people using those websites every month. I'm paying $10 a month. So I build it all there, hand out the URL. So as you've noticed, I've got these custom URLs over everything. I don't still use the yourapp.replit.app. I get to put my custom domain, 8020brain.com, for example, over the top of that so that you get a nice, easy domain or URL to go to. So it's better from a branding point of view. That doesn't cost any extra. That's built in as well. So how to get started? Go to replit.com and you'll create something called a REPL. So a REPL is basically just a Replit app. And the best way to create that, rather than creating it on Replit and building it all on Replit, is you've already built it using the brain, because you're already paying for your Claude Code subscription. No need to pay extra to use that agent on Replit. So build it in Claude Code, push all of that up to a private repository on GitHub, and then you import all of that code from GitHub. So you'll paste in your GitHub repo, say this is where I want to go get it from, sign in, obviously authorize that, and then Replit will figure out what type of website it is. Almost all of mine are built in this thing called TypeScript, so I still don't do really anything in Python because I can vaguely kind of read some of the TypeScript. I'm interested enough, curious enough that I kind of want to understand it, but I'm certainly not trying to read every line of code that Claude writes anymore. It's way too quick to do that, but I feel like I can at least, it's a bit like French. I can read it, I can't fluently speak it. And that helps a little bit just to understand a bit. You don't need to. I think it's nice if you are curious. It's nice to be able to understand what's happening under the hood, but it isn't necessary at this point. So it then figures everything out. You can run it there just to check, and then you publish that. So get me out of the way. It works out basically all the stuff it needs to do, all the packages and bits of code needed to make your website run. It installs those in the little corner of Replit that we're using. It creates a little server for you, runs all of code, runs your website, and says, great, here you go, use this URL, please. And then, like I said, if you want to, you can slap your domain over the top of that. And now anybody can go use them. Now, one note on this thing called secrets. So we talked in an early video about the env file, the environment file, and that's where all of our API keys live. Those are the passwords we don't want anybody else to see. On Replit, that's called the secrets screen or the secrets panel. So you just go up to the top of Replit and you open up the secrets. If you get really stuck, you could ask the agent or go watch one of Matt's great videos on YouTube. So locally, we call it the env file. Replit calls it secrets. Locally, we have something like this, right? My fal API key. So remember the images one, fal key equals ABC. Secrets, it's slightly different. You've got 2 input fields, one for the key and one called the value. So the key is the thing, API key, and then the value is what's the value of that API key. 2 separate input fields. Locally, we did this thing called git ignore, if you remember that one, which says, hey, when we save all of our files up to GitHub, we want to ignore this env file. We do not want to put that on GitHub for the world to see it because it contains all of our passwords. Replit secrets, you don't need to worry about that. Replit handles all of that. It just does not show that to anybody. So it means that your website can say, oi, Replit, what's the value for this thing that I need right now, this URL or this thing that I need. I'm trying to think of a good example and failing. It chats to Replit, it dives into the secrets, it pulls it out, it plugs it into the code, and it runs. So again, you don't want to use an API key on that front-end website. So yes, your secret is keeping things safe, but because the code is going to say, hey, fill in this blank for me, go grab the file API key, pull it back, insert it, now go have a chat to file. Again, someone that knows what they're doing can look behind the scenes into that code and say, oh, there we go, file key. And then they go off and use your account to generate loads of images and melt your credit card. So have a chat to Claude Code, have a chat to the brain. How do we stop that? What is a back-end server? How do we create this second piece that Mike talked about? Take the transcript of this video, drop it into Claude Code and say, the stuff he was talking about. Yeah, do that. Build a back-end server that we can route all of our API calls through for all of the important stuff, API keys. If you've got database URLs, go over here, find my data, bring it back. Auth tokens are very, very similar to API keys, webhooks. It's all secret stuff that you don't want a bunch of other people finding. Last thing on Replit, there's 4 deployment types, but there's 2 main ones. Auto scale, which I think I use for everything. And then you can have a reserved virtual machine. I wouldn't recommend it. It can get a bit more expensive, and you probably don't need it. Unless you have tens of thousands of people, you're probably not going to need it. Now, there's an argument that I should be using this for my back-end server, because when people log into the members portal, it does a quick check on your email against my database to figure out what level of membership you have. Technically, yes, if I use this, it would probably be 2 seconds quicker. I figure that you don't mind waiting an extra 2 seconds to log into a thing that hopefully you feel has got tons and tons of value. It's not really worth it to me to spend all of that extra money, however much it is, I don't really know, on saving that extra 2 seconds. So all of mine are auto scale. I very much doubt you'll need anything other than auto scale. So what does this look like in practice? So you build everything in the brain. Then you use the sync command, or you can just chat to the brain and say, hey, commit all of my code to GitHub and push the code. So when you commit, you're actually committing to Git. So remember, Git is locally. We commit, we save the code. That goes as far as Git. So that's keeping track of all of the changes, but we need to push the code up and out to GitHub. It's not enough just to commit those files. We need to push it off to GitHub. So the sync command, which is built into the brain, just handles all of that for you. Just makes it really, really easy. It deals with common problems, so I don't have to repeat myself over and over again with, no, there's this thing, oh yeah, can you, it's all just handled, it's easy. That dumps all of the code into GitHub. I never open GitHub, don't need to. And then I open up Replit. So I'll open up Replit in the browser. You can see I've got a bunch of saved sites that I go to. There are all my different Replit apps that I go to all the time. I dive in there and I pull that code, that new code that I've just saved, I pull that down into Replit, and then I deploy or publish or republish. If I've done it before, I republish that app, and it goes ding, 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 green, 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 green. Yep, bang, it's ready to go. Plays a little sound and off we go. That usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes. Smaller sites can take a few seconds. Bigger sites might take 3 minutes. You get the idea. You won't need to type in code to Replit. You can do it, and Claude Code can give you the commands to do that, but there's a nice big button in there that says pull. So you just click that, and the code just comes down, and then you're off and running. Now, Replit does not auto-deploy. I'll talk about that when we get to Vercel. It's a feature I really like, but this is here for a reason. You have to go to Replit and say, I've got some new code on GitHub. Go get it. Yep, I'm happy with it. Now, redeploy, republish this to the web so everybody can see the new version. You'll notice at the bottom of all of my sites, there's a version number. That's really for me more so than for you, so that I know when I'm pushing out a new version, I go to the website, I check the number down the bottom, 1.2.32. Yep, great. Okay, that's the new version. Before it was 31, now it's 32, and I know that everything's working. And again, I didn't code that. I don't know how to do that. I just asked Claude Code to figure it out and put that latest version number down in the footer at the bottom of the website. Please, Claude. Great. Carry on. So in the next one, we'll talk about Vercel, which is good for small, lightweight little things, client portals, stuff like that. Again, with both of these, be aware of terms of service. I believe with both of them, you're not allowed to use the free tier for commercial purposes. Up to you what you do with that information. But let's talk about Vercel next. I will see you there.